Didn't you talk about Grounded last week?
Yep.
Was it last week?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got into it now.
Mm-hmm.
Grounded's fun.
Fighting bugs.
The spiders are terrifying, man.
They're
Okay, I realized this though is that any game where there's giant arachnid, it freaks me out.
You don't like it.
I don't like it at all. The last one that I remember kind of really getting me like this were the ones in Star Wars Fallen, or not Fallen. Was it Fallen Order? Was the first Jedi? Was it Fallen Order? Star Wars Jedi.
Yeah, Fallen Order and then Lone Survivor.
No. The newest one is just Survivor. Yeah.
Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jedi Survivor.
There's giant arachnids in those. I
don't remember that at all.
They're only in one spot in one planet. I think it's the Wookiee planet.
Kashyyyk?
Yeah.
You go to Kashyyyk in that game?
Don't you?
I don't remember that game really. I remember
the jungles.
I remember the big plot points. Like I remember the big fights.
I just remember like in a cave. in a cave there were big spiders, and at first so you have to kill them to get to to do a certain thing. And I did it, and I learned how to parry them really well. So I was like killing them fast. And now once I was done, I was like never going back there. But
I apologize, by the way. That was a knee-jerk reaction.
What did you do?
You kind of find it. I was making fun of you, but I didn't mean to.
And it went right over my head. Woo!
It's like you call back. You made a noise, and I just responded.
SpongeBob, you did it.
little.
All right, let's do this.
This is Tommy.
This is Jacob.
This is
Tommy and Jacob's mixtape.
Hello, everyone.
Here, just one spot.
Oh, welcome back. This is TJ's mixtape. I'm Tommy. That's Jacob.
Things. Boring. It's boring.
We are good friends that like movies, so we do a movie review podcast. We talk about...
We make fun of each other.
How they were made, who made them, who's in them, and kind of talk about the plot points, the themes, and give it a rating.
Is it this?
Give it an arbitrary rating to kind of end off. And we're doing
showing my age right now.
box office flops, movies that were not received well, that we were interested in. So last week we did The Crow remake.
Yeah, I guess I kind of was interested in The Crow. Out of like
morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
I was the same way. I was just like, what are they doing? And we talked about that last week. And this week we're doing 2024's Here.
But first.
Oh, the game.
I'm surprised you haven't figured this into your thing yet.
No. But I also don't play the game. I always forget about it until we bring it up. So I'm also not playing it.
Yeah, sorry. Fucking.
Who was it again?
So, our connection, it was Tessa Thompson to Halle Berry.
And the game is that we're connecting the two actors in movies that they have been in.
From connecting through co-stars.
Yes.
We personally try to avoid big franchise, Marvel, DC.
Try. It's hard, though.
This one, the number one connection is easily Marvel. So I'll put that one out there afterwards. But so you did forget to do this one?
Yeah.
All right. Well, this one I had fun going down the rabbit hole. I think I had like 3 or 4. So I did Tessa Thompson in Sorry to Bother You with Lakeith Stanfield, who is in Get Out with Bradley Whitford.
Okay.
Who we just did him in Kate and Leopold, who's in that with Hugh Jackman. And Avoiding X-Men, I said Swordfish with Halle Berry.
Oh, there you go. So
that was 3. The quickest one is Robert Downey Jr. Tessa Thompson in the only Marvel movie she's in with Robert Downey Jr. Endgame. And Robert Downey Jr. and Halle Berry are in Gothica together.
I forgot he was in that.
I did too, and because I
forget about that movie a lot.
I vaguely remember. I remember like the main twist and the big plot of that movie.
Don't say it.
Okay, fair. Because like that's the only thing I really remember.
I really want to rewatch it.
I just remember when it came out, and after watching it, whenever there was a flickering light, I'm just scared. I was like, I need to get the fuck out of here now.
Have you ever seen Lights Out?
I think so. I feel like this is a cyclical conversation. Gothica's brought up. I bring up these flickering lights, and then you ask about Lights Out.
Yeah, probably.
There's Lights Out, the creature that can't get into the light. Oh no, that's Darkness Falls.
Yeah, but I guess explaining it like that is a lot of movies.
Yeah,
A creature that can't go into the light. Yeah, kind of. It's. You remember how I've always said I really liked the Candyman reboot remake?
Stay on the mic. You're getting really blah blah blah.
Reboot thing because I like the way it plays with reflections.
Say that again.
Remember how I was saying I really like the Candyman reboot remake thing, sequel, because of the way they play with reflections? I like that for Lights Out. Not reflections, but for shadows and darkness. Okay. I think it plays with that in a really fun way.
Is it kind of recent, actually? Last 10 years?
Yeah, I was going to say 10 years. 2018.
Okay. Maybe I've seen it. Maybe I haven't. I don't know. But we aren't here to talk about any of that, and we will do another 2 actors at the end of this one. Keep playing. It's fun getting messages from you guys on whatever, if you figure one out, whether it's through YouTube, Instagram, or if you personally know us and you message us. Yeah. So play the game with us. It's fun. And we're always encouraging, I hope. I'm never going to tell you, that's a bad choice. No, bad connection. How dare you use that actor?
And the Marvel thing is like loosey-goosey.
That's us. If you want to use it, go for it.
It just makes it kind of too easy.
It can, really easy. And if you are going to use it, then make sure you're using a specific Marvel movie or a specific Harry Potter movie or a specific Pirates movie.
Yeah, anything with a big ensemble, blockbuster cast.
Try to stay in the independent circuit because we're fucking cool. Yeah. No.
Anyways, so we're here to do here.
We're here. I'm here. He's there. They're Wolf.
Here was released first at AFI Fest on October 25th, and then largely in the U.S. November 1st.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what Here is, a quick little synopsis for you is the look at lives over the generations from the point of view of a plot of land.
I guess that's plot of land. I looked at it as that makes more sense because now that I'm thinking about it, a point in space and time. Yeah. Oh no, that would work. Point in space and time. I was thinking if it's just a space, then that moves through time. Anywho, my the string theory just came into my brain. To kind of give him perspective of how big of a flop this was, I decided to look up the budget and everything. Did you do it as well? Mm-hmm. So with its budget was 45 to 50 million, and it only made 15.8 million back in box office. That is a huge box office disappointment.
Well, and then after doing research with this and watching it and everything, I don't really get why it's as big as a flop.
Neither do I.
I don't, and even reading about it, I don't get it. I don't get why it was so hated about it.
I can see, we'll get into our feelings about the movie itself in our review, but I can see it not being for everyone, so that's fine. But the strangest thing is literally the names attached just didn't draw people, which I think is kind of goes to show that all of these people, Zemeckis, Hanks, Wright, Roth, are really all from a generation, a specific group of people. I don't think this really reaches young audiences very well.
Yeah, but I don't think it's supposed to.
No, but it should reach all audiences in a big sense. Any movie should reach all audiences, especially something like this.
Well, I guess it goes back into the substance thing.
Its target audience is meant to be broad. Honestly, it's Zemeckis, so his big thing is I want an Oscar. You're always hoping for the Oscar. You're never shooting for the Oscar. Does that make sense?
Well,
you're just trying to make your art as your art.
I just think that this movie is very a specific kind of, like you were saying, but kind of like a specific generation that still is around. And it's just the fact that it just didn't.
A lot of the people that would have regularly gone and seen this in the theaters now are like, I'll just wait for it to come out on streaming.
Yeah.
I don't need to go to the theaters and see. We're complacent. We're at home. We're in our beds. We're cozy.
Yeah.
We're comfy. I got a slippers on the couch.
Because I could see this being a big hit with the boomer generation.
Yeah, and it probably was when it got on Netflix.
Yeah. It's a very boomery movie,
Late boomer, early Gen X.
Yeah, it really is.
And then millennial movie buffs.
Yeah. But.
Did you like it, though?
I really did. I really liked it.
Yeah.
I'll call a spade a spade. It's a very gimmicky movie.
Yeah.
It's so reliant on its gimmick. But the gimmick was done well. And I only think that too because when it first starts and it's introducing you to the gimmick, you're kind of like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And then as it progresses...
And I think... Yeah.
I just got really impressed with it.
Yeah.
Because also it just did a really good job of making these, not all of them, but a lot of the characters really flushed out with really little information about them. It was all just very dialogue, and it's not like it's like a reality show, in the sense that you're not following them. You're not omniscient as the viewer in the sense of you're following them when they go into the room alone and getting this whole narrative and monologue and all these pieces. You are the fly. You are the fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Just watching these people go through their day lives and moments. And it's just... thought the gimmick it really grew on me. And I was like, this is really interesting. But I got to say, considering I had this idea too... I mean, granted, the book came out first, but I had a similar idea of this. It was kind of cool to watch it. Mine was way more depressing than this ended up being. But... I had a similar idea for a story, and so I was like, it's kind of cool to see.
Yours idea was what? It was like a wall,
It was the house.
The house itself, yeah.
Yeah, not a point in time.
Yeah.
It was kind of like Monster House, but like a drama about generational trauma.
Yeah. I mean, you can still do it.
Yeah, it's kind of the idea.
Well, yeah, okay, so we got into all that. Let's get into who wrote, directed, all that stuff, and start with the comic. The graphic novel that we didn't know it was.
I didn't know it was. I didn't know this was a comic book movie.
Written by Richard McGuire, who is a graphic novelist, artist, musician, kind of like he's like a jack of all trades. I feel like more of like an illustrator than anything. He's got art in Museum of Modern Art. That's in New York, right? Anyway. Well, I mean, he does a lot of his illustrations have been like in the New York Times and stuff. But this released the graphic novel. Was the first 6 pages or whatever it was what?
1989.
1989,
and then it all got compiled into a graphic novel in 2014.
2014, thank you. And
that 304 page graphic novel. So these are little serials that have been going on for a while.
Was it little serials for a little while? I thought it started with the 6 panel or the 6th thing, 1989, and then he created more. I missed the... I
might have misunderstood. I thought it was serial, but now I'm like, where would it have been?
Yeah, maybe New York Times, but
maybe.
I don't know. Yeah, I think it may have just been a larger project, and then it became... He made it a 300 page.
Yeah.
We failed on our research with that.
Yeah,
so
I totally dropped
you tell us, audience.
I dropped my ball on that one.
But yeah. So, and it's been adapted into many different forms of media, which I think is really cool as well. This is being the most recent, and I think what's so unique about this idea is that it fits in everything maybe than modern cinema.
Wait, repeat. My brain did not catch any.
I feel like this idea is so unique that it fits into every other form except for modern cinema.
Oh. This is going to sound... I hate when I do this, but I'm just going to say it. I think it really can fit into cinema, but someone needs to do it really, really well and really specifically, and I don't think that they did it
I agree with that as well. I think it
would have to be such lightning in a bottle and a flash in the pan kind of thing that you just happen to get the perfect writer and the perfect director, and they just coexist in this perfect ecosystem.
I think they did. I think they just dropped the ball.
I think they got someone too old.
Okay, fair.
Nothing against him and not ageist or anything. I just think that, it does get to a certain point with directors and anyone, you do kind of, if you're not, it's like, like a doctor. A doctor needs to keep going and getting these classes and staying up with it to be relevant and stay current with medicine. I kind of think it's the same thing with directors and writers, and I feel like they fall into a rut and I'm fucking Scorsese,
But I mean, Zemeckis is kind of that director though, because of the technology they wanted to use in this. I think it was just the way that they told the story it was the problem.
Yeah, I think also it was too feel good.
Yeah. Well, and that's just I think the problem is they had this idea of starting at the beginning. They should have had it was already non-linear, but they could have made it just a little bit more nonlinear.
Like chop it up a little bit more.
Just a little bit more. And I'm not talking about like our main family storyline, but certain things could have just been differently placed.
I'm now realizing too, this might be worth another watch because you might catch things. There might actually be more connections between the moments you're seeing simultaneously than I first gave it credit for. I mean, like the situation happening here and mirrors this one over here. I did catch some of them, but I'm sure I missed some.
I felt like every single one. I was looking for that every single time.
I didn't think about that,
and I noticed most of the time it was some type of parallel
mirror. No, that's what I'm saying though.
Which is like comes to the theme of one of the things in this of time repeats itself. But we'll get into that. That's comic book writer Richard McGuire, Terry McGinnis.
Anyways, our director is Robert Zemeckis, like we mentioned. We have done him actually not that long ago in episode 221 with Polar Express.
Yeah.
I always forget Beowulf is on there, which I think is wild.
Yeah, he directed Beowulf.
Yeah, it's just so wild.
Like I said, like he's always wanting to do the next type of technology.
He just doesn't do it very well.
He's the old man to test it out, and then the young kids are like, "I see what you did, old man."
That's actually kind of true. Like, because like the de-aging in this is pretty fucking wild.
They used AI, that's why.
Well, yeah, of course they did. I figured how was he gonna do it, but yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like there were moments I actually forgot how old Tom Hanks and Robin Wright were. Like just completely because he looks like he did in Big.
Yeah.
And it's actually, there are moments where it's a little funky, a little pastel-y, Play-Doh-y looking, but on the whole, like especially if they're about our distance.
Yeah, when they're like next to the lens, next to the camera.
That's when you really notice it, but they're like a good 4 or 5 feet away. It's pretty fucking impeccable. It's kind of crazy.
It still looks really great when they're like right there in frame, like main in frame as well.
It really is, this whole idea of film is this secret to immortality. And it's really, really not becoming that where it's like you're going to be able to, I mean, I don't know where the legality of this is going to go, but you might be able to use people for a very long time.
I mean, that's what the actor strike is
already. The argument is,
yeah.
And I understand, but I'm like, oh, I get it now. I get it. I'm like, this is kind of dangerous.
You get it now?
Yeah.
You understand why?
Yeah. I understand why it's in Robert Downey's clause that if he'll sue him from his death.
Yeah.
I'm like,
his estate will sue anybody.
Yeah. I was like, I get it now.
And then we have Eric Roth was the screenwriter with Robert Zemeckis, right? Yeah.
They wrote the screenplay together.
And they worked together on Forrest Gump. Eric Roth has worked on 6 different Oscar-nominated screenplays. Oscar-nominated screenplays.
Eric Roth has worked on some cool shit.
Yeah. Like from Dune, A Curious Case of Benjamin Button, A Star is Born,
Munich, Ali.
Yeah.
Good Shepherd, Killers of a Flower Moon. Like some serious, like, you're like, wow. You have some real heavy hitters in your roster that you've worked on.
Again, which is weird how this movie... I mean, everyone has one. Well, everyone has... Might have
but that's the thing. I don't think it's not poorly written. It's just not...
I don't think it's not lined up very well, in my opinion. But no, it's Eric... I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
This was just a hard concept. It was a hard...
Yeah, the whole thing is hard. It's a hard project to... That's why I was saying the lightning in the bottle, flash in the pan kind of thing. It's like somewhere in a parallel universe, it did align perfectly and really hit it out of the park. But like you were just saying too, with Zemeckis, it's like now someone's going to take it. Now that someone has put the rough draft out there, which, it's weird to call it rough draft, but to put the rough draft out there, someone's going to look at it just like we are and being like, I can think of a couple ways you can make this better.
And then here comes Here Again.
There you go. Boom. You got to have a lot of fun with sequel names for Here.
Right. And then let's get into starring.
I only wrote down like the main family because it was just kind of a lot of people to try and keep track of.
Yeah.
So like we said, starring Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. Tom Hanks we have done twice now in Polar Express.
Oh, third now.
Big. What's the third one?
This one.
Oh, well, yeah. But yeah, okay, whatever. Tom Hanks is Tom Hanks. I don't think he needs... And
Robin Wright, she was also in Forrest Gump. This is the reconnection of Richard McGuire, Zemeckis, Roth, Hanks, and Wright, and music composer, and cinematographer from Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Like 6 people from Forrest Gump into this movie again, which is crazy. And Robin Wright has worked with Zemeckis 4 separate times. So Forrest Gump in this one, and then Beowulf.
Yeah, she's the queen.
And I forgot. Did I forget to write that one down? Was it? No, I don't. There was another movie that I saw that she worked with him on. But she has 4 movies with Zemeckis, and Tom Hanks has 4 movies with Zemeckis as well. And I didn't write those other 2 down. Oh no, Polar Express is one of them.
I'm just trying to look real quick.
I mean, it's just like it feels like this movie. Maybe it was because they were trying too hard to like recreate the magic of Forrest Gump in a strange way.
It does have that vibe to it.
Yeah.
And I don't really like Forrest Gump.
I know you're not a big fan of Forrest Gump.
Not really.
And that's probably one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I don't.
I would put that in a top 10 list, not a top 5.
Who is she? Oh, she's the love interest in Toys. I forgot about that movie.
It just feels like all of them together, like it should be, like it on paper, again, more of the idea on paper. This should have been one of the biggest box office successes of last year. Should have been Oscar bait left and right. And what do we get winner? A Nora. Because people want gritty stuff now, man. They don't want this boring white people stuff.
And the last 2 I put down were Paul Bettany, who plays Al.
I actually completely forgot the other people.
Who we did talk about in Gangster #1.
Oh, yeah!
Episode 40.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually put down that we'd never done Paul Bettany.
Yeah, and he's Jarvis, Vision, and Marvels.
He's in A Knight's Tale, Da Vinci Code. Oh, it's Tom Hanks.
He's in a movie called Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah.
That's like a British one.
Oh, he's not in?
No, it's a different one.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah, it came out a few years before, and I'm like really curious about it. The cast looks cool. Doesn't have
Legion. Did you like Legion?
I did. That was fun.
I haven't seen it in so long.
It's not great. It's that era of like
I remember seeing
really
it in
over
theaters.
the top production.
I remember Doug Jones.
Do you ever see Priest?
I haven't seen Priest.
Priest is cool. Priest is really cool because also Carl Urban's the bad guy.
Oh, okay.
So it's him and Carl Urban going like toe to toe, and he's like a vampire hunter. It's all like crazy gothic religious, and it's cool. It's like Underworld cool. Not as good as the first Underworld, but it's like that kind of vibe.
Underworld 1 and 2 have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I was just talking to our friend about he wanted to watch what franchise could I start over? You know, he wanted to watch something familiar. And I suggested Underworld. He went, ooh. He was like, I forgot about that.
Sexy vampires.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, the hot vampires.
That don't sparkle.
Hot vampires.
And hot lichens, too, honestly.
When they have sex, their eyes turn blue.
Zip.
Yep.
Whoa! That awoken some things for me as a teenager.
Kate Beckinsale is a vampire. And Scott Speedman, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's also a babe, too.
Michael. That's right. His name is Michael.
I
don't know why this is just such a... Michael. I don't say his name.
Arrested Development ruined it. Then they say it too. Oh yes, Michael. They all do it their little vampire hiss.
Oh man. Okay.
So that's
Kelly Reilly.
Who plays Rose, who is our mother. Alan and Rose are married, and then Richard and Margaret, Tom and Robin are married.
She's probably most recognizable, I think, to people probably Yellowstone.
Yeah, I mean, I recognized her and couldn't remember, but she's in Sherlock Holmes. She's marrying Watson.
Yeah, I have a vague memory of her in that. And then she was also in Zemeckis-directed film Flight with Denzel Washington, which I don't remember that movie.
And then there's a shit ton of other people in this movie. Zaza Zemeckis is in it.
Yeah, Zemeckis' daughter.
That's just I just like wanted to say Zaza Zemeckis because that's fucking dope. So unnecessary to swear right there, but that's how passionately I feel about it. Oh, our baby girl. What should we name her?
Zaza!
Zaza Zemeckis.
Like, all right, Doc.
Yeah, just I don't know. It's such a Zemeckis move, you know. Labor Zaza. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, there's a lot of people in this.
Abbreviated name is.
But the one they call her ZZ Top. Those 4 are the ones that we get most development and screen time with.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of other people.
There's a bunch of. I wrote down just a list of all the timelines we go through. I was gonna put that out there.
Sure.
Do you want me to do that after the reviews or before?
Let's do it after. Let's do the scores.
Go into reviews? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Review time. Tommy's Corner. So the scores that I found are a little bit, they're all over the place.
Okay.
IMDb, it's got a 6.3, which is like, okay, fair. I can see that. And then
it was actually higher than I thought, considering
it was a lot higher than I thought.
Considering we were doing like this.
But here we go, Rotten Tomatoes now. 37 tomato meter.
Tomato meter is the us, right?
No, that's the critics.
Okay, so 37 critics. Okay.
37 tomato meter rating and a 59 popcorn.
Okay, there we go. There they are. There's our boomers. The 6 point whatever, and then that right there's our boomers. Those are the people that watched it. And now I'm thinking too, because when we get into it, now that I'm like thinking about the reviews, the ones that I've been reading for years now, doing this podcast, the older ones liked it than the names ones I didn't really recognize that might be younger.
That's fair.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
And maybe that's why I'm like torn in between on this, because I understand and appreciate the older like people cinema stuff, but I'm also kind of like looking what's new. That's all honestly why I really fucking loved Anora and why I wanted Anora to win Oscar this year, and it did. Anora won. Yeah, you don't really care about me anymore, do you?
I don't care about the Oscars. And
it's fun for me.
And then I rewatched it and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that I don't care about the Oscars. Last 2 minutes and I was like, I don't give a shit anymore.
All right, what are your reviews?
So on Metacritic it has a 39, which is generally unfavorable, with 6 positive, 21 mixed, and 14 negative. At the tippity top with an 80, by Charlotte Simmons at We Got This Covered. Here plays not only by its own rules, but a whole other cinematic ballgame, which those who take the time to learn its language will be immaculately rewarded.
So you have to do homework to understand this movie? Is that what that's saying?
No, maybe. I actually don't know. That's a good point.
Well, what is that last point you said? Is like those who
take the time to learn its language.
Yeah.
I thought more about sitting there and really just kind of going with it.
Yeah.
With the narrative, not having to research anything about it.
Well, I mean, I was being facetious with research and homework, but taking the time to learn its language, that means you have to put in the work to understand a movie while you're watching a movie, not just let the movie take over for you.
Yeah, but in this context, I don't necessarily think that's bad.
Eh.
Anyways, the one I wrote down that I thought kind of struck a chord most was with the 63 at Real Reviews. In the end, I was more let down by the movie's inability to draw me in than impressed by its offbeat premise. By James Bertinelli.
Yeah, that's fair. It's because it's hard to draw into this movie. You just got that name?
Real Views. Real Views. Just got that.
Okay.
It's clever. It's so clever that I didn't get it until just now. And I've been looking at that name for a long time now. It's real clever.
What's the next one, bud?
60 at The Guardian by Peter Bradshaw. The dreamy quirkiness keeps you watching, and the folksy warmth of performances from Tom Hanks and Robin Wright encourage you to cut it some slack.
That's a pretty honest one.
I thought that was pretty good because there's this dreamy air to it, because it does talk about certain events historically that it brings them up and then ignores others, and then the ones it does decide to bring up, they doesn't really have any levity to it, really. Like even the scene with the whole brother going to Vietnam and stuff. It's like this argument over Thanksgiving, but it doesn't really pack a punch at all. It's kind of like, well, people used to argue about Vietnam, so let's have a scene where they argue about Vietnam. It's very lackluster. A
lot of this movie felt that way.
Yeah, and that is.
But that's kind of what the premise of the comics was as well. Is that it's supposed to be capturing these hot points and moments of time.
Yeah, but it's still, I get that.
But it just didn't feel
no punch to it.
Yeah.
it was lacking the drama, these dramatic moments. And that's what I think it is the dramatic moments didn't have any punch and no drama to it. But then the sweet moments of like the fluff, the loving and the caring, the bittersweet moments had a lot into it. And it didn't balance it right. Mm-hmm. So it's good. That's kind of how it has this kind of dreamlike rose tinted glasses, how you remembered it kind of thing.
Fair. Yeah.
And then for the negative at the bottom, let's see, the Telegraph. With a 20 at the Telegraph by Tim Roby. Zemeckis can't let go of his ghastly conviction that everything has to be heart-tugging schmaltz. Alan Silverstry's ruminously sickly score is his main accomplice. And I just thought that was really funny because goddamn, the music needed to chill out with the swelling and you will feel this now. I felt like you're getting hit in the face with an emotional snowball.
The feather just floats away into the wind of the end of Forrest Gump. Yeah. No, I said at the end of this, was like, and this music really feels like Forrest Gump right now.
But like on crack, like I said, it's like an emotional snowball getting thrown in your fucking face.
Yeah. Forrest Gump has that too. Because I know you haven't watched it in a long time, so
maybe I don't have the reference down.
Yeah.
I
Forrest Gump does that.
I don't get it.
Hardcore.
I do not get the love of Forrest Gump. I will never get it. I do not understand. Mayonnaise. I'm gonna get it.
I'm not going to defend this movie anymore towards you.
What, Forrest Gump?
Yeah. I'm just going to.
Do you think people are going to be pissed off about me saying that? Is that like a diehard what?
It's regarded as like one of the best movies of like the last like 50 years.
Still don't get it. What do we do now? I forgot.
Are you done with the reviews?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing of this movie, really, I think, because like its biggest themes are time repeats itself, the repetition of time, and the capturing of a moment. Like this is in a moment, and a moment. What did I write down? So kind of like my quick little thought was like the culmination of Margaret's memory and the memory of the location is what makes the film special. That's specifically the end here. I just wish they made me care about all the moments in the spot. No, that's not. Yeah, but here it is. Time repeats itself, but moments tell a story. That's kind of like a sentence that I kind of felt captured.
Explain your time repeats itself.
Because in that spot, Margaret gave birth to their kid, the Native American, indigenous woman. She gave birth there. There was life and death being recreated in this spot. There was the man who died there with a heart attack. There was the woman who got sick with COVID. There's a constant coming back from war, going to war. There is war. Time repeats itself. History repeats itself. Time repeats itself. Sorry. But it's the moments that tell the story.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's about a moment. And this is about capturing moments in time. So this concept is really interesting and cool. But then your execution is really the key thing. And just so we know all of our timelines here, there was like 6 of them. So briefly, there is the dinosaur into the Ice Age, so pre-human time. And then we have...
Prehistoric.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Pre-human time. I mean, you got there with the pre and the H, and then you kind of fell off the rails. All right, so pre-human time. And then what?
I just realized what prehistoric means. Like I've always thought of prehistoric as just like this like full one word, like meaning dinosaurs.
I think that's what it does mean, but there's more.
But I never really thought it was like, it's prehistory before history is fully actually documented.
Before being documented.
It's prehistoric.
Anyway,
I don't even know if I should finish off.
I'm curious what you're going to call the rest of them. The flapper time?
No, I did almost want to, though. Okay, so we have the prehistoric time.
Funny guy with the mustache.
Indigenous people's time. William Franklin's time. And also, it's because it's the plot of William Franklin, the illegitimate son of Benjamin Franklin.
I find it just interesting. I do find the terminology you're using interesting.
Because I was trying to think of like...
so it's prehistoric, pre-colonial, Revolutionary War.
There we go.
It's like you're like... It's like
and now I actually have like...
It's like you're being bet to you call anything but the name of one.
And now I have like the actual like names here. So turn of the 20th century, which is the Harders with the airplanes. And they had the Spanish flu. Then you have the 40s, Lee and Stella with the invention of the lazy boy, and midst of World War II. And then the Youngs, our main family, which is from 1945 to the late 2010s, like 2019 maybe-ish. And then our final family, the Harris family, and COVID-19.
Yeah.
So I couldn't think of like the terms for. I was like, I don't know. Again, it's William Franklin. It's this time.
Anyways, so I have come to the realization that anyone listening to this, more often than not, has seen the movie. But if you haven't,
not necessarily, but yeah,
I feel like that's our draw. Someone sees a movie that they like,
yeah,
and they're like, oh, okay. But so for those that don't know or were curious about this, so like we were saying, the top of all
what the
this,
gimmick is if you don't know.
Yeah, what we said in the top of this is that we're doing movies that didn't really do great, that had an interesting premise that we were interested in seeing. So the gimmick with this one, it is literally at this point in time of a fixed camera. So even when you're in the prehistoric time or
fixed frame.
So even when you're in the prehistoric time, the pre-colonial time, you are always looking at the same angle, same time. Mm-hmm. But then what they will do is they'll impose time. You're time traveling all at once. It's a really cool concept. You are seeing time as not a linear thing. You're seeing it all at once you just can't control it, you know? And it's a really cool gimmick. They just didn't utilize it well enough. And what made me really, really notice it is when they did that really cool shot with the mirror. And I went, you could have had a lot of fun with this, and you didn't really do it.
Late in the movie.
Yeah, like one time. Again, you could have overdone it.
Yeah.
But you didn't really utilize mirrors and just, the trick of the eye. And
I think what's interesting is and that may have been like a really kind of up for debate thing to do, is to bend the perspective. It did immediately make the world feel bigger, and like the house,
fair, but it didn't make it feel open.
No,
which is I think it might sound cliche, or it's a very important distinction.
And I felt like the thing that kind of like helped make the world feel larger was just like how oh god, what was Dominic's character's name?
Ricky.
Thank you, Richard. His paintings. So you're getting a different perspective through his paintings.
Yeah.
You're seeing different angles through that, which I thought was interesting. I liked that. And when the mirror happened, the reflection thing, it was just it was a little jarring and it was just interesting for the moment, but I just felt like it felt out of place, and like maybe it should have been introduced more earlier on and then used just maybe a few more times in very, impactful moments.
Well, now that I'm thinking about it too, you could have really done like that mirror one is pretty up in your face, because they had moved a dresser, and then the dresser's there, and then and it kind of played with the time concept in a really interesting way. You could have done a lot more nuanced ones that if you're just like life, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a conversation this could have been a thing, but like have one of the women using her a compact mirror. I don't even know if people still use those anymore.
But I mean, they did.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying if people don't know what a compact mirror is.
Oh, that's right.
You know what I mean? Okay. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. But like using a compact mirror in kind of in a like kind of tense situation, and we're only getting her perspective because we're seeing the back of her head. But in the mirror, you might be able to see the husband character and his face only if you're really paying attention. Yeah. Like little shit like that would have been really cool. And there probably, like I said, there are moments like that throughout it.
It could have been a thing of contention in the script because of what the nature of the source material is.
Mm-hmm. That's true, and we don't really know the source material, so it's hard to compare the two.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we can't do what we did with The Crow last week because we don't.
Oh, also this was a surprise that it was a graphic novel.
Yeah, that was cool. That was a cool little surprise. And the whole it's kind of funny, like your Incredible Hulk thing. This is a comic book movie. Fucking panel.
But their use of it, but that's also I looked at some of the panels of the novel, of the graphic novel, and he does that in constantly as well.
And to give credit where credit's due on the gimmick, because of the fact that it's calling it a gimmick a lot of the times, it's a double-edged sword. It's like when they do the gimmick well, it's really good. When they're not doing it well, it comes off really cheesy. And like, even like what I really liked too is like what I said about the linear thing. It's like you're looking at time as not linear. So there's even moments when two windows of time we're seeing at the same time look like they're interacting with each other because of what's happening in those moments at the same time. There's
moments like that in this. Yeah, you're saying the moments like that's in this movie that are interesting.
Yeah.
And I think because by, I would say, halfway through the movie is when I actually started to feel invested, which is too late. I was really bummed out that I finally started. I was like, why didn't I care about what was going on earlier on?
That's true. I think it is too late, but the fact that it got you invested at all, I was really impressed by.
Yeah.
Because also, I thought you liked this more because it plays like a play.
Yes.
It's very play.
Oh yeah, because it's one fucking spot.
Well, yeah, no, but there's one. It's a scene. What is it? It's when baby little Ricky is playing with his army toys and he's playing World War II, and the dad is standing there with the bar. That shot is such a play.
I loved that scene. That was like that was. But amazing. Even that was like,
I thought actually that Paul Bettany was like one of the better.
Oh, he was amazing.
He was great in this, but that was one moment that I was like, I don't like this at all. Like. It felt too play. It didn't feel
presenting.
It felt like that. That was the one moment I felt like we are the audience sitting here, not the fly on the wall. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not that we're just happening to see through this John Malkovich door into this world. We are. We are the audience. We have been given
a chair. And we are watching this spot.
We are the audience now, and I was like, it's a weird sensation.
It's very Brechtian, actually.
It's a weird sensation to feel in a movie that didn't do that, then it does it, and then it doesn't do it again. It's a very weird moment in that movie.
Well, it's weird. I mean,
I do like here's a chair. Yeah. You're going to want to watch this. It's like, oh, okay. All right. I was already kind of watching that, but Clockwork Orange it, I
think what really, like, the thing that really took me out was at the very, very beginning.
The dinosaurs?
It was the prehistoric time.
Really?
Because I was like, I immediately, and I feel like this has just been ruined in movies because of these two movies, 2001 Space Odyssey and The Tree of Life. And I feel like The Tree of Life really did it in the best way, though.
Didn't that movie get panned?
Tree of Life? Mm-hmm. Critically,
no.
The audiences hated it.
Is that the Fountain of Youth one? No, I'm thinking of Fountain.
You're thinking of The Fountain.
The Fountain. That's what I'm thinking.
With Hugh Jackman?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking. Tree of Life is the Brad Pitt, Sean Penn, Jessica Chastain, Terrence Malick.
2011. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
I just
Tree of Life?
Yeah.
2011? Yeah.
The fuck is this? I have no idea what this is.
You will probably hate it.
What? You say I'm not cultured enough?
No, I'm just saying it's fucking weird. Because it's almost... It's really up to debate, really what it's about as well. I think it's Terrence Malick's depiction of ascension to heaven and the memories that you replay in your head. But
that like dream thing they say happens,
and how memories are fragmented and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But then it has a lot of biblical things. How the father Brad Pitt represents nature and the mother represents nurture. And how the son is torn between the two his entire life, but always goes back to the mother. Anywho,
you're getting derailed on Tree of Life.
Bring Anthony.
We'll do that.
Bring Anthony here, and we'll have a 3-hour long.
Cool. He'll be our first guest. Now,
but it has that prehistoric beginning of time moment in it as well. But it happens in a moment where it's time to explain the beginning of time. And 2001 Space Odyssey makes sense for it to be the beginning because 2001 Space Odyssey goes through a plethora of time, you know? And it's impactful for like the box and its this movie just had it at the beginning.
Okay, I was like, what is your issue with it?
Had it at the beginning, and it just felt like it was, and this is the beginning of time, and it's the beginning of the movie, as opposed to like having there be some they introduced a spot here, the frames, the different kind of timelines, and then it just like all of a sudden went into that, as opposed to let's build up with the families, let's build up our investment.
So your issue with it was the point at which we were introduced to that.
Yes,
you'd rather have had been at some other point.
I'd rather they'd built up to that. So, and I'd rather them have built up to moments in time better as well.
Well, also I will say that this has that Forrest Gump thing. With my issue with Forrest Gump is that every iconic pop culture historical thing in the last 30 years revolves around him, and I just had a really hard time eating that carrot. This also has that, but this one you can kind of excuse more because it's land. It's not a person going around and doing this. It is a lot of stuff. Where we're standing, a lot of stuff happened over the millions of years.
You're saying you'd rather buy into history going to one spot than a person traveling around discovering history.
No, but what do you mean history in one spot? Because of the lazy boy, the will. Yeah, but I mean, like that. Okay, fine. But even then, it's like that's not where the Revolutionary War was won. It just shows a house where, I don't know.
Tax me, motherfucker! That's Shane Gillis.
God, like it kills me every time. 6'1", ginger with music.
All right. What?
No, I don't know. It's like it just was kind of. I guess the way to put it is it was just disguised a little bit better. You know, like fucking Forrest Gump accidentally making the smiley face.
It's interesting. Okay, I want to just really quick side note with Forrest Gump is that I feel like you focus so much on these moments in time that he happens to be around, as opposed to really what the story is about is...
Isn't he the one that outs him on Watergate?
On accident, yeah, but that's the joke. It's the joke of it. It's supposed to be a joke.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I don't find it a funny joke.
As he's the narrator, as a person who doesn't understand... never.
Yeah, we're going to Forrest Gump it. No. I completely lost... everything.
We're here.
Yeah. That's just completely
moments and history and moments in taking history to specific moments.
It's just disguised.
You feel like it's disguised better.
I think it's disguised better than like a Forrest Gump kind of situation is. And that's what I'm saying. Because it's not following a person around these events. It's following this space. It's following space in this event, not,
Yeah.
Over the course of millions of years. I mean, granted, we only get a little piece of that, prehistoric, pre-human time.
We don't need a lot of it, which is also, I will give a credit to that, is that, especially in Tree of Life, that's like a half-hour long segment. That's like fucking like, when it first happens, you're like, why? What's happening? What movie am I watching right now?
It becomes Walking with Dinosaurs on BBC. Yeah. Okay.
But it's just, and anytime it started to really like cut in between like the different timelines, it just felt like forced interludes, because they have to like jump in time for our main family, the Young family. And like, it just starts to feel disingenuous, and I don't really start to really care about the family until there's conflict with Richard and Margaret. I mean, it's interesting. And also, I will say one thing I found interesting is the arc of Richard, how he was a very reckless child, and then he finally does like one big reckless thing and gets Margaret pregnant, and then the rest of his life he's trying to be as safe as possible won't leave the house, doesn't want to sell the house, is afraid of the money attack, is always, concerned about money. And then once the one thing that he was always trying so hard to be safe for is gone, he decides to take a chance and do his art again. So there's good stuff in here. There's great character growth with Richard and Margaret. Her losing her memory is heartbreaking. But then like all the other like families, like also the Harris family really felt like a forced narrative as well. Bringing up with COVID-19, having them be a black family, which felt just kind of like a very like, it really truly felt like, oh, we've had so many white people narratives. We need to, it felt pandering.
Well, then, yeah, it's like you have the COVID thing and then you have the being pulled over by a cop conversation. And that's kind of the heaviest.
And it really felt,
it didn't feel genuine. It
felt like a white guy's perspective of,
because it was a white guy's perspective on the situation.
It's like
you would be correct.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not to say that those conversations don't happen, and that's not
that's not what we're saying at all. It just it didn't feel, but that's the thing.
It felt disingenuous. It felt like it was trying too hard to be genuine.
That's kind of I think a big issue with it too, is that this movie has its identity. It really does. It knows what it's trying to do. Yeah. The only problem, and it's just kind of, and that's what we're kind of talking about with Zemeckis and kind of trying the new things, Polar Express and this, and the idea is that there are moments where you do feel like you're just watching these, and then there are moments that it feels like a play, and that really takes you out of it.
Yeah.
Because there are, like the dad talking about the war, and that's actually kind of interesting. It's these heavy moments. It's the dad and kind of going through his PTSD of the war.
It's kind of almost like the spotlight. The light gets soft and the light comes hard on them. Yeah.
And then it's the heavy moment of the parents telling their son what's doing when get pulled over. It's like these moments, and they don't feel like a real conversation because of the fact that since we're in a fixed point, we are changing the perspective of the people talking for the audience, when it's like, you shouldn't have them facing this way. You shouldn't, you know what I mean? It should be very natural of where they're sitting and the body link. There are moments where it felt very scripted, and that might actually be my problem with it.
Yeah.
Is that it felt scripted, and they should have made it feel a little more natural and kind of naturally get shots, even if they weren't the perfect shot of seeing someone's face or something. It's like, this movie is so dialogue heavy and small actions that it's like you don't really need to see them perfectly.
Yeah.
To really get the point across. And I think that's the problem, is that a lot of the moments are supposed to be these really heartfelt, genuine, sad even moments, but they feel scripted.
Yeah.
And so you sit there and you feel cheapened by the whole thing. But if they had made a little more natural feeling, then you would feel more like you're in on the secret,
in the moment,
in this intimate moment.
That's how it becomes a performative thing.
Yeah,
it felt very performative, which is interesting. And I will say,
I think that we kind of nailed on why that's what it is. It feels disingenuous because they're trying to make you feel this, as opposed to just naturally letting your experiences sway you. Because that was something like this, that's an anthology almost, all at the same time. Certain stories are going to pluck you, and some aren't. Things that you've experienced are going to make you feel more.
Would you say that you felt as an audience, as a viewer, like alienated in a way? That you felt like you were being brought to a sense of realizing that you are an audience member watching a movie, as opposed to being lost in the movie?
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying about the stage thing.
It's interesting you say it, because like in theater, and I'm doing this because we talk about how it feels like a play, it feels like theater in a way. Film has been built out of this sense of more the Stanislavski method, and now Strasberg and whatnot, which is the more as realistic as you can possibly get. Mm-hmm. And then from that, there became this form called Brechtian, which meant to make the audience understand they are part of the show. They are an audience purveying something.
And that is theater.
And that is theater, yeah. So it's like to take, because theater did there is still the Stanislavski of like get lost in the play, you are.
Well, the one you're describing, it's like a symbiotic thing, right?
Yes,
like,
yes.
You give and they give, and you feed off of.
And Brechtian is to make sure that the audience is still aware of it. So it becomes almost this presentational thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work well in the form of film. And I feel like this film fell into that Brechtian sense.
And yes, I think you nailed it too, because I think also that's funny because that's what I don't like about theater. I do not like being interacted with as if I'm in the room. I like to be on the other side of the window observing in. And I want to, and that's why I like film. And that's just what it is. There's an argument, not an argument, I guess that's an argument, but there's like people that like film and don't like theater and vice versa. And it's because of that interaction that the audience has. And I think it's even, like if I'm watching something and something really uncomfortable is happening, I'll fast forward it. Like if I know it's coming, I'm like, I can't handle it. And that's why I don't like theater. I'm trapped. I'm trapped in that moment. I'm like, I don't want to be in this moment. Let me out. Let me out.
That's the magic of theater.
Or the curse, depending on the way you look at it. So yeah, that is actually I think that's what it is. This in some movies.
But I mean, I don't know if that's what they were going for as well.
It doesn't matter.
I mean, well, generally in theater, when you are shooting for Brechtian, you make a Brechtian show. You don't generally. Most common theater isn't Brechtian. Most common theater is more in Stanislavski.
But what I was saying earlier, I feel like that was the intent because of the way that it was filmed and it not feeling natural in a lot of moments on even just how they were sitting and like that. And it's, it's granted because the table, the Thanksgiving table. Yeah. The placement of that, considering we got a little bit of look with the mirror, you're like, why is that table there? It looked odd because they moved the table to extend it for the rest of the family, but they had the kitchen table. You could see them sitting at it in the mirror that was far off in the corner from the distance. You know what I mean? So it's like we put the Thanksgiving table here so you could see everyone. But it's like, no, let's keep the family over at the Thanksgiving table, and then we have the brother come up to the foot of the table, so now he's in shot. And then he does his Vietnam announcement, going to war. Then you hear Tom Hanks off camera, who's obviously over here in the dining room. Then the argument starts. And then you can have the brother walk into the living room, then Tom Hanks follow him, and then he comes into shot. Yeah. But they started putting things in a way
to make it presented.
To make us see and it's like, no, you don't. If you want it to be this space and time.
Especially, the space and time.
It would have been, you could have made it more natural.
Don't make it seem like we're focusing and everything else feels like it is just like stopped in a sense of time. Yeah. The young family feels very, a lot of the families in the house feel very much this happened at this moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It does feel like it's forced moments in this space and time.
Well, and it's like you have to keep both in mind, is that you don't know the space because you never really get to see it fully. So we don't, except for that one pan out where you actually do. But you don't really know the space. But as a filmmaker and a director, your audience not knowing the space, you can really play around with it. And they stopped so much in that fucking living room that even that too, the amount of time these people are in this living room having these conversations and these issues, it kind of becomes really muddled together. Because even, with the mom having a stroke and things like that, big moments like that. And I kind of think that I just, not to my own horn, but that Vietnam conversation, having the argument, it's the same thing as you're sitting there and something funny happens and someone in the other room that you can't see says something, always makes it funnier. Yeah. This disembodied voice going, the hell did you just say? It's always funnier. And it's the same kind of thing with something negative like a fight. Mm-hmm. Having that far away kind of muffled voice and then the sound of that person coming closer. You know what I mean? It's like they really could have played with the space more, and I just feel like they didn't really utilize it.
It's a broken expectation thing because you're expecting to hear the noise come from whatever's in front of you, then you hear it from off camera, off stage, and you're just like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah, and I think that this gimmick is just that. It's a really interesting gimmick, and it's really fun, but it's completely different, but my mind went to Memento. Like Memento is a very big gimmick movie because it plays with time and memory so much. And it's like that's a very well done version of that. I mean, they're not doing the imposing image thing or audio and any of that. But it's like I do think that this movie, I kind of do feel like this movie, people are going to look back on it. Oh yeah, that was pretty cool. For two things. For the gimmick of the time all at once kind of thing is just kind of interesting. And the de-aging is like, this is the first time of actually seeing it.
The use of the technology is really, really well. But it takes me out sometimes in like the depth of the camera. There's moments when they're so far back and then the people are so far forward. It looks to me as if they're in two different
houses,
technologies, really. Like clearly some type
understand what you're
green
saying.
Screen. Like one's on a green screen stage and one person's on a regular stage. Mm-hmm. It seems like there was a separation of how.
Oh, it kind of goes into like when we have like the native scenes. It's like, that's when I said, you know, this wasn't cheap, but it looks really cheap.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, it just looks like a 2000s stage they made look like a forest. Mm-hmm. You're kind of like,
and it doesn't help that like the filter on it or whatever is so bright and everything just like looks so.
That's the dreamy thing.
Like flat.
Yeah.
But
pastel-y.
But then also it's got depth, but it's flat at the same time.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. Like
it's a very bizarre movie. That's
it's
for
like
sure.
Visually, it's like not. I don't know. Visually, it wasn't. But also visually, it isn't very captivating because it is one spot. But it also just doesn't feel. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
I kind of wanted to bring it up before we run out of time here. But that article that I mentioned, and then you said there were certain things you wanted to.
Oh, it was with the black family and how that felt very.
Okay.
You know, and it's like it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like I felt like they wanted to try to bring something in there that was relevant to, that doesn't speak to just, you know, one specific group of people. And it's like, and then, you know, so if you do a little bit of that, and it's like, well, then what about the rest of all of the minorities and people of, you know, everything and whatnot.
Giving everyone the voice.
But then if you don't, then it's just like, well, this is just a movie for
white people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, I mean, but that's just, that is a thing with cinema today in general. It's like, the audiences that you're speaking to. But
well, because even the moments that did give you, like, you know, we brought up the, you know, the dad talking about World War II and the parents talking to their kid about being pulled over, and even towards the end when you have the dementia scene, it's like they do cause. I just want to like.
There's moments of connecting to character.
Yes, but even then, even with those moments that did get an emotional response from me personally, like, you know, of like, oh, this is really sweet, or this is really sad or scary or whatever the emotion I'm feeling that emotion, it still felt cheap. Mm-hmm. Even that scene with
contrived. Yeah.
With Margaret remembering the blue ribbon. Yeah. And you think back on that blue ribbon moment.
And then the one time the camera moves.
Yeah, but even that blue ribbon moment was really cheesy to me. And so this big helping her remember with her dementia or Alzheimer's or whatever she has going on with her, it's like, oh, great, I'm thinking back on that scene. She remembers. I didn't really like that scene. That scene was really cheesy and very like fucking cereal commercial.
What's interesting is like really that scene is kind of the heart of the film and a big theme of the movie as well, being memory. Because it is kind of like the memory of this spot, you know, kind of like people like if these walls could talk, the memories of the walls, you know, it's like this spot, if the spot could talk. And so it's kind of like this spot just telling us its memories and her memories being gone. And it's like in this special spot that we have been purveying in this moment of time, her memories all come back to her and we get to relive those memories. We've seen those memories and we get to see her relive those memories for the first time. And it's a very, very, it is what makes this film special, is the culmination, the build up to that spot.
Well, it also, but it's depending on how you look at it, that is very sweet, or this movie is a huge bummer.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like, because of the way it's paced and the time travel aspect that we're getting, just a minute ago, she was really bitching and moaning about how much she hated this place.
Yeah.
And now it's like, well, now that she's older and she remembers again, it touches her much because it's so special. Or she's so sick that she thinks that she has all these fond memories about it, but she was out traveling the world and going to Paris. And and then especially with like a disease of that kind of mental situation where you're losing your memory and losing parts of your personality, it's really hard to say what's coming through and what's not. So maybe that's also why people are like, this movie's fucking depressing.
Yeah.
I could see it, depending on how you look at it, being really...
I mean, it doesn't have a happy ending. I mean, it has a happy note, but it's like they don't end up...
It's bittersweet.
Yeah. It's sweet. Yeah, it's bittersweet. Yeah. And I will say also...
Did you also find it creepy that Tom Hanks was telling the elderly dementia lady about having sex on the couch? Did you also find that like maybe not appropriate to do in that situation?
No.
Okay. I felt like it was really just Tom Hanks. And on this couch, we got hot and heavy. And she's like, what? No. I don't know. It felt odd. It felt odd to me.
How dare you ask me?
Well, because it's like in that moment too, she's having an episode. She doesn't know who the fuck this guy is.
Well, I mean, he's trying to like big moments is what he's trying to like bring back to her. I know, and it's who knows what else he's tried. Like he's trying anything and everything. And
they gave me the good one too over the. You know what I mean? I'm like,
fucking A.
Like, stop it. There's so many other things you could bring up.
Grandpa, stop talking about sex.
I thought it was really bizarre. I don't know. Maybe I'm alone there, but I was like,
I felt like it was fine. I actually I thought it was kind of cute.
I didn't think it was problematic. I just thought it was bizarre. Like I wasn't like, because at the end of the day, it is what happened. Yeah. But it's just I was just thinking from her perspective.
Well, I remember when we were young and we used to go at it.
Like put yourself in her eyes, looking at that older version of Tom Hanks. On this couch right here. You're like, okay. I don't know. I just thought it was bizarre.
It rubs the lotion on the
Yeah, I don't know. And her not knowing who he is at the moment.
It's like I feel like it's just like this movie. It's like this movie gets better as it goes along, which is like not a good sense of a movie because it should really capture you at the beginning and then like kind of have you go through a fun journey. But it's really like the last bit of it is the most interesting parts of the stories and the most actually invested. You start to feel if you get invested at all. I could see people going through this and not feeling invested one bit.
No, I could completely see that. Because it's also, it is a very specific, especially because we do end up inevitably following one family. It's
the family that lived there the longest.
Yeah, but it's this, white, middle class, boomer going into that generation, and it's a very specific time frame and point of view coming, but it's also like, well, that's the
like what the world's greatest generation to the boomer generation,
and
kind of Gen X,
kind of going into Gen X, but I think that kind of an interesting way to look at this too is, and you can totally correct me if you don't agree, but it's an anthology movie. Just you're watching the anthology all at once.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how anthology movies love. And that's why I like them a lot is because, you watch 20, 30 minutes. That one wasn't for me. And then the next one comes on. You're like, that one was great. Oh, and that one wasn't, and I really like that because you just get a little taste of everything. And this movie is that it is, but it's just all happening at one time. And there are some really great scenes of great acting that are funny,
And I guess like what I was talking about, like that with like the timeline is they did find a way to make when it's transitioning to other times, there be some type of like parallel of like story of what's happening.
Yeah, like a line leading into it,
a through line. Yeah,
so
which is kind of like the time repeating itself thing I was talking about.
Yeah,
but I felt like they also just like chose poor times to do it, I guess. I feel like the narrative structure could have just been reworked to make it more of an interesting story.
Well, and
keep an audience more invested.
I agree with you, but I also think that just thinking about it just now, right in this very moment, this would have kind of been really hard.
Oh, dude, I'm not saying this was like this was fuck. Like studios were. They took a long time for Zemeckis and everyone to get backing because studios were like, this sounds way too difficult.
Yeah.
And like, this doesn't sound, and it didn't sound marketable.
No, I'm sitting here thinking, they're kind of right. I was sitting, I'm sitting here thinking about it from the writers, because I always go into that mindset, and I just had the epiphany. I was like, this is actually pretty impressive considering what it is. This would have been really hard to write.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
God, this sounds fun.
Right, take the challenge, bud.
It does. It sounds fun to write out all these timelines, put them up on the board, and then start picking the moments, and then like finding the detail to lead them into the next one. And I don't know. It's actually, now that we're talking, it gives me a little more respect for it, because that sounds really fucking hard.
Oh no, yeah, it was very
like really hard.
It's like it sucks because there was like you can tell so much hard work and love and admiration put into this film. And it just unfortunately didn't hit.
It just didn't hit.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, but I still think it's like people are gonna look back on this. I think this is one of the Polar Express thing.
Yeah.
People are gonna be like, oh shit.
Zemeckis.
Well, and that too, we were saying like
Beowulf
studios looking at it and being like, it can't be done.
Yeah. And Zemeckis is like, hold my beer.
Yeah, hold my beer. It's like, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, it doesn't look like very good. I did it though. You didn't ask for it to look good. You said it couldn't be done, and I did it.
And then some 25-year-old hotshot's like, oh, no, this is how you're supposed to do it. Damn it.
And then Zemeckis is like, oh, that's what it looks like?
All right. We're at like 70. We should wrap up.
I want to give it a 3.
Really?
I do. Because kind of like the Polar Express thing. It's like the gimmick is really interesting. It has moments of the acting that really shine through. I don't think it deserves a 2.
That's where I was at, actually.
Why?
What
did you dislike about it so much?
I just didn't think it was, for everything on paper that should be so interesting, I didn't think it was interesting.
You didn't think it was interesting? And no way, shape, or form. Did you not find? You said you found yourself invested halfway through, so you're a liar.
That's the problem as well, is that it got me too late.
How does it get you invested too late? If you're invested, if you're like, I was watching it and then I realized halfway through I should be invested, but it was just, I didn't care anymore, then that's one thing. But you're saying
I was about to turn it off, and then I was like, oh, I guess I'll finish watching it. Oh, no, obviously not turn it off. But like,
I was like, what? How's that going to work?
I was at a point where I was
like
in
the dark by myself.
I feel like I'm just ready to turn this off, and then I think the young family and then there was more Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, I think, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I just don't feel like it was executed very well. I don't feel like it was. It just feels not well put together. It feels like an experiment that didn't work super hot, which is fine. That's what Zemeckis does.
Yeah, it's kind of.
I have a lot of respect for Zemeckis with that.
It's kind of wild, actually, to kind of look at
his hits and like, dude, he either like hits it big or it's kind of like,
or he makes, or he does like the occasional weird cult classic, Death Becomes Her.
Yeah,
it's like a very particular group of people are like, that movie's dope, and like the other group has never heard of it. I mean, that's kind of an age thing too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think like his biggest hits, with Back to the Future, Castaway.
The dude has had a wild career.
Yeah.
And it really is. It's just sometimes, you could argue you got the Scorseses of the world that pretty much make hit after hit. And then you got someone like him but you got to give him credit. He's like Beck. He fucking tries.
Yeah. No, exactly.
You got to give him credit for
That's
that.
why I was being honest with the feeling. I'll settle with a 2.5.
2.75.
Unless you can convince me for a 3. You've asked me to do this. Can you bring it up to a 3 for me?
Okay. Well, so I'll just let's give you why I give it a 3. Right. I think that it is a very interesting concept that hasn't really been done the way it's done. And I'm a big visual person, and I think visually it was done well. Could it have been better? Yes. And just the playing with the space. But I think that they pulled it off enough to keep me interested in watching it, especially because it was such a kind of choppy way of doing it. You never knew who was going to come up next or what part of the story you're going to get to for all these different people that you're following. And I just think the even though it was in this kind of play format that I really didn't like, I thought the performances were great. And I think that I'm really impressed with the writing in the sense that most of these people it'd be really interesting to go through and time how long everyone actually does have on screen with dialogue to tell you who they are, and having as limited time as they had with that. And then you really felt like you got to know a majority of the characters pretty well.
Okay.
And then, the fact of depending on the time period, like our bohemian couple that's making the first Lazy Boy, and he's an inventor and she's kind of like a flapper, and they have no kids, which is kind of interesting for that time period too. And they're together forever, but they still have a really healthy sex life. And, just like it has these kind of interesting little windows in time. And I think that, I don't know. I do think that also the lack of what they decided to bring up historically, I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I guess a 2.5. Yeah.
I was going to say, cause you kind of talking about saying all that is my biggest problem with this is that it relies too hard on the gimmick, actually, on this moment in time. And it doesn't spend enough time making you care about a character's or your characters.
Yeah.
journeys.
And then we've had this conversation. I can't think of a movie off the top of my head, but we've had the gimmick conversation, and we have said that it's like, you can't, a gimmick is cool, and a gimmick is, if you can do it well,
you can't let the movie dictate the gimmick, or the gimmick dictate the movie.
Yeah. It's like, if you can think of a cool gimmick, because, that's, I think it was maybe Kate and Leopold. Yeah. We were talking about the gimmick of that, and it's like, it's a really mediocre romance, but it has this gimmick of time travel.
Yep.
And that's what they did. They wrote a romance and went, okay, what can we make it to make it different? And you're like, yeah, this
is already a different idea. It's coming from a very different perspective, idea, art form of graphic novel from a point of view. And I think it's difficult. I'll settle with a 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting, what you said earlier about how this pretty much works for every multimedia format except for a
cinema
movie. It just doesn't really.
It's like, even like when the graphic novel was released, they released it in an interactive, interactive graphic novel, pretty much on your computer, where like you could click on smaller panels and interact with the world in a different way. There was a VR world created from it. Like, there's a bunch of interesting, cool multimedia and things for it, but cinema seemed to be the hardest.
I think that's what, I don't think it's impossible. I think it's just the hardest.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Because of what the medium of what cinema is.
Yeah. And it's like, I think this would work great as a play, actually.
An actual. That would be hard.
That's the thing. It would be hard, but I think that because of your interaction with these moments, you actually being in the audience, I think that a theater crowd would enjoy more than a cinema crowd. You couldn't do certain things, really.
Yeah. My theater director brain is already figuring out how to do it.
Well, and the set making would be cool. And that's what I think it would be, is like having these overlapping times and then figuring out how to make the set correlate with the characters and costumes and time periods, all a live moment, would be really cool. And then it didn't translate well to this.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right.
2.5?
2.5. So that was here. 2 out of 5 carrots.
All right.
We don't know what we're doing next week.
We don't know what we're doing next week.
All right.
What are new actors? God, hair. My mustache hair in my nose.
Amanda Seyfried to Julian Moore.
Whoa.
That sounds kind of like that'd be interesting. Yeah? No? Yeah?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just erasing this. Amanda Seyfried to Julianne Moore.
Yeah. Cool. So for next week's game, yeah, Amanda Seyfried to Julianne Moore. Please follow, subscribe on all of our posts. You'll see what's coming up in the following week. On there's our link tree. And our link tree, you can go ahead and click what you'd like to use to listen. whether it be Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We do have video if you're just listening, if you like video. Faces. Ladle.
I need to go look at some. My upper lip just started swelling for some weird reason.
Swelling?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, cool. This is Tommy.
This is Jacob. This is Tommy and Jacob's mixtape. Later.
I think my cap's going to fall off.
Ooh.
We're falling apart.